Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange Podcast. Stories by leaders for leaders to help you raise the bar on your own excellence, to release the potential inside of you. Now, here's today's podcast. Welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange. This is Hugh Ballou, president and founder of the Center Vision Leadership Foundation. Center Vision is synergy and vision. Leaders communicate their vision and build synergy with their teams. We are upgrading our skills today because we're talking to Randy Mayeux, who has, I'm going to let him tell you about what he does, but our title for this session today, I got to read it here. Deep dives into good books. Reading books still matters, definitely still matters. So Randy Mayeux, thanks for being our guest today, and tell people a little bit about your background and your passion about what you do. What is it you do and your passion?
My name, Randy Mayeux. All of my life, I have read books. I am a learner who learns by reading books. There are other ways to learn, but reading books is my way. I did spend about 20 years in ministry, and for 27 years nearly, I have conducted an event in Dallas called the First Friday Book Synopsis, where I present synopses live and streaming on Zoom of best-selling business books. Here is my handout for Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin, two former Navy SEALs. So I prepare a 10 to 12 page handout, and that's what I do. Now, by background, I mentioned that I've always been a reader. I started with comic books, then I went to the Hardy Boys, then Don't Tell My Mother, I read Mickey Spillane, and then I started reading serious books, nonfiction books. And though I have really focused on business books, we've presented over 630 synopses of business books. A synopsis lets you know what's in the book. It's not a review. It is more than a summary, far more. It is a synopsis of the transferable concepts. So we've done over 630 books in the 27 years nearly that we've done this. And I've done both books every month, 2 books for the last few years after my founding partner had a stroke. So that's what I do. I love to read. I love to learn from reading.
Let me ask you, your differentiation, you are very different from other services that do this primarily because of you. But you also were different because of the impact you had. Now, before we started, if you want to share that image with people, I think that circle that you shared with me summarizes the things that you teach. So, do you want to share that image and talk about the impact? That's, to me, that's how you have impact on people's lives.
Okay, Hugh, this is something that I created after around 15 years of presenting books every month, business books that are bestsellers. Jim Collins, Malcolm Gladwell, Amy Edmondson, you name a best-selling author, we've presented their key books.
So Randy, I just want to highlight for people that are listening on the audio podcast, when you go to the nonprofitexchange.org, you can download this document, but he's going to talk you through it and you can imagine it, but in the podcast, you'll be able to link to it. So excuse me for interrupting you.
That's all right, Hugh, thanks. On the left, in orange ovals, I say, assuming that you have a product or service that others will pay for. That's the absolute requirement of successful business. And then under that, I have orange circles, assuming process excellence. Excellent business processes such as logistics, accounting, billing, collecting. And then another oval for marketing and sales, customer acquisition. And then the last oval on the left, customer service, customer experience, that's customer retention. Without those 4 ovals churning along effectively, you're not going to have an effective business. And yes, I have presented books on those 4 ovals, especially marketing and sales and customer service and customer experience. But on the right side of the screen, I have the key, what I call my bubbles. They're circles. And these are the things that leaders and effective business people have to always keep learning about and keep getting better with their skills in these. At the center of the graphic is the healthy and growing organization is constantly adapting and innovating. Think about companies that did not keep current. Sears, Roebuck and Company, Montgomery Ward, Circuit City, that Jim Collins named as an exemplar in the book Good to Great. They didn't keep current, and so they're gone. I've got a favorite restaurant when I moved to Dallas called Steak and Ale. It's long gone. I loved that restaurant. They did not keep current. And then clockwise, starting on the top left, here are the other circles to keep working at. What's the meaning behind your business? The core values, the why. And then the next circle is what's your strategy? And the next circle is how do you build your leader and leaders? And the next circle, how do you build and nurture your teams? The next circle is how do you hire the right talent? How do you nurture the talent? The next circle is how does everybody get aligned in the corporate culture where everybody's on the same page? The next circle, communication. And I give this to companies and they always say we are weak on communication. Over my shoulder, I've got the Chip Heath and Dan Heath book, Made to Stick on Communication. Good book. And then execution. That's the execution of your strategy. And then measure your progress. And then the last circle is removing bottlenecks. Every one of these is critical, and there are good books that I've presented for every one of those circles. Hugh?
You were so spot on. I mean, you and I haven't really talked about this, but so I want to remind people listening, whether you're clergy, there's the business of church, whether you're a community organization like a membership organization, a chamber of commerce, or you're a community-based charity or a nonprofit university. You're in a business. It's a tax-exempt business. So when he's talking about your product or service, if it's college, you're educating people. If you're feeding the homeless or you're housing the homeless, you're feeding people. And in churches, it's our transformational journey. So we do have a product. And so think of it in terms of your product and how does it impact people's lives. That chart is worth the whole interview right there, Randy. Thank you so much. Last time I read your resume, it was 625 books, and now it's 630. So you gotta work hard to keep up with Randy Mayeux. Randy, what do you want to leave with people? What thought do you want to leave with people today?
I do want to say first, Hugh, thank you for inviting me. And this has been a pleasant and wonderful conversation. I want to say when you need to tackle a question or challenge, just Google this question. What's the best book on building teams? What's the best book on? And then you look through the list and you pick one that is good and you get your pen out or use your Kindle app, you underline passages and you read. What I want to say to people is the best way to keep learning is to know what's in the best books. If people write an article, they haven't thought through it much, but when they get ready to submit a manuscript, they have thought through their stuff. And so that's where you get your deepest dive into those good books. So that's what I want to say.
You heard it right here on the Nonprofit Exchange. Randy Mayeux, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you for listening to the Nonprofit Exchange.